והנה אף על פי שבבריאה נמשך רק הארס האצילוס. Now even though that in the world of Bria is drawn only a glimmer of the world of Atzilus. Omnam אף על פי כן המלכוס דאצילוס היא עצמה בכה המסך. Nonetheless, the level of Malchus of Atzilus itself breaks through the curtain Venasis Atik de Briachu and becomes the Atik of the world of Bria and so forth. V'kamo shekas v'beitz Chaim Shamim Zayin Perek Aleph, like it's brought in Eitz Chaim. Omnam Reisha the Arichan Ping de Briachulu Lo Ha'arachulu. There it says, however, that the head of Arich of Bria and so forth, it's not just a glimmer and so forth, Ki Akelim V'Ha'atzmus Shelo Yarduchulu, because the vessels and the essence, meaning the lights of her, came down and so forth, of Malchus. V'im Kain Hu Hashpala Gedol V'Atzuma, and if so, this is a tremendous descent and lowering. Ela Shelakach Shelachein Nimshach Bebechinas Kisei Hisnot Tzutzuz Ohr Keser Chachma Bina Datzilos. But for this reason is drawn down in the throne the sparking of the light of Keser Chachma Bina of Atzilus is through this descent of Malchus. V'nimtze yesh bebechinas kisei bechinas mashel mayla mehamalchus datzilus atzma. So it's found then that in the throne there is within it a level that's beyond the malchus of Atzilus itself, that has come down in it. Dainu shmislab shim ha'aras keser chachma bina datzilus, and that is enclosed the glimmer of keser chachma bina of Atzilus bekeser chachma bina das debriya, in the first four levels of keser chachma bina das, that is the keser chachma bina das of Bria. Hashazeu in Yanaki Sechulu, that's the concept of the throne that the lights are, so to speak, sitting in. Zeu in Yanaki Sechulu. Lechen kishem malchus datzilus nishpeles liyeshiv al kisei anal, and therefore when malchus of Atzilus is brought down to sit upon the throne, that we said im hiyoso hashpala, even though it's a lowering for it, shari ein aruch bria latzilus, because you cannot compare the world of Bria to Atzilus. Ach mikol makom mitzad shnimtza bekisei hanal hisnu tzutzus oros keser chachma bina de Atzilus. But nonetheless, because you can find in that throne that we said this sparkling of the lights of Keser Chachma Bina of Atzilus. Lekach gama malchus datzilos tekabel chayos mizeh. Therefore, even in its lowly state, malchus will receive this life force from it. V'hu kimo sheha'adam mekabel chayos mehamaychol. This is just like a person receives life from the food, even though the food itself is only something that grows, and lower than the person, just like Olam Abri is lower than the Malchus. Or the ha'ara, the glimmer, is lower than the Malchus. It's a nitzutz. Anyway, so in the mashal, so the Michael, the food it's the tzomeach, it's something that grows and much lower than the person. But it has within the food something that's beyond the person, and so forth. That's giving him life. So to it's the concept of the lights of Keser Chachma Bina of Atzilus into the Keser Chachma Bina Das of Bria. To the point where Malchus of Atzilus itself will receive life force from it, even though Malchus is above, Malchus of Atzilus is above the Keser Chachma Bina Das of Bria, but because there's this sparkle from Keser Chachma Bina of Atzilus in it, so it has a light that the Malchus is able to receive from. that's higher than the Malchus. V'hainu she'atorah nikres lechem, l'chu lachmu b'lachmi, and that is that the Torah is called bread. Come and partake of my bread. Ki ha-Talmud hu mikeser chachma bina das debria, because the Talmud is from this level of the four first spheros of the world of Bria. Keser chachma bina das, al kein hu lechem u'mazon lebechinas malchus datzilos, hamelubeshes bo, and therefore it is a bread and a sustenance to malchus of Atzilus that's enclosed within it. Mitzad sheyesh b'zeh hisnotzus keser chachma bina datzilos chulo, because there's this sparkle from keser chachma bina of Atzilus within it, and so forth. Ubezeh even mashakasu b'Tanya perek nun beis, and from this you can understand what it says in Tanya chapter 52. Umahu halavush chulo, what is this garment that the neshama can wear, that it can enable it to receive from above, and so forth. He chachmai lad leila leila chulu yain sham. It says that this garment is so meaning to say what can enable the light from beyond to come into that world. It's the kodesh kodashim of that world. It's the level of chachmai law that's much much higher, and so forth. Yain sham, look over there. That's referring to this idea that the Chachma is this kisei for the lights of Atzilus that enables the Malchus to receive. So it's found that the garment is higher than the level of Malchus that's enclosed within it. That from the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Holy One, blessed be He, does not have in His world anything other than the 4 amos of halacha. Pirush ein levush lehaor hanimshach mimenu yisparich b'ma she'yisachez v'yislabesh bo ela daled amos shel halacha, and that is, there's no garment of the light that's drawn from Him, may be blessed, that it can grab onto and enclose itself within, other than the 4 amos of halacha. That it's this levush, it's this kisei, two orins of mipnei shezeu davka levush yan shosher gavoa mebichinas chachmei la d'leila le'ela mehaor mislabish b'chulo kanal, and that is because this is specifically the garment, because its source is much much higher than chachmei la, it's much much higher than the light that's enclosed within it, and so forth. Like we said before, he doesn't go into the difference between the Talmud and Mishnah and Halacha over here, and why it's specifically Dalet Amos Shel Halacha. But just in general, the concept of Keser Chachma Bina in Torah and Chachmei La, they're all equated. As the Kisei in Olam Habriya, and the Or from Atzilus, that from the Mochin of that's mislabish in it. And this is that it says that you've affected a dwelling place for your sitting. And that is through drawing down into the concept of the throne, a sparkling of the lights, these high lights, these very high lights, that are much higher than the light that it gets enclosed, that puts the clothing on. The clothing itself, so to speak, is higher than the one that's putting the clothing on, which is the Malchus of Atzilos, and the clothing is, so to speak, the Kisei, has a higher shoresh. In Keser Chachma Bina Vatzilos, and similarly is explained in another place, and on the verse, the heavens are my throne, and so forth. The shoresh inyan zeh gam ken inyan shiyardu ani tzutus to olamatohu, and the root of this concept is like the concept that descended the sparks of the world of Tohu v'nislabshu lamata, and are enclosed below in the things around us in this world. And that's why there's a greatness to these lower things more than the higher things. Higher than the things that are in the natural order, higher than them, the things that come from tikkun and so forth. So the sparks from olam hatohu and things below that need to be purified. So within that context, when we elevate the sparks, it's like Hashem sitting on his throne of glory, or his throne of honor, or like the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the lights of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, through elevating the sparks. And with all this, you can understand also what's brought on the concept of having Geula next to Tefillah, the bracha of Gal Yisrael, right before you daven, Sheikhul Kachar Kedashim, Debria Nase Atzilus Mamash, that the palace of the Holy of Holies of the world of Bria becomes like Atzilus truly, that the bracha of Gal Yisrael, that's when that corresponds with the Heichal Kachar Kedashim. And the Birchos Kriya Shema, that the Birchos Kriya Shema, each part corresponds with a different one of the Shiva Heichalos, but Gal Yisrael is a Heichal Kachar Kedashim. Shari be'emes haneshama v'ha'or de'heichal kachar kedashim shor gavoa afilu ma'al malchus de'atzilus atzman. That is, because in truth, the soul and the light of this palace of the Holy of Holies, its source, its root, is higher than the malchus of Atzilus itself. Shari shorsho or keser chachma bina de'atzilus mamash, because its root is the light of keser chachma bina of Atzilus itself. Only that it's descended to be in the world of Bria a garment to this concept of Malchus of Atzilus, and therefore in Shmona Esrei it goes up to the world of Atzilus, because that's its shoresh, and that's where it goes back up to. Well, Pisa Efshel Var Lashon Azor Kadosh Parshas Pikudei Tafresh Samech Sof Amud Beis Ad In Sof. So with this we can explain the Lashon of the Zohar Pekudei, where it says until infinity, Ulakashra Shviya B'Shviya Chulu, and to tie the seventh to the seventh, and so forth. Ein Sham, look over there. The mashma lefi pshat halashon, that it implies according to this simple language, Shal Yidei Heichal Kachar Kedashim Hu Aliyah Ad Ein Sof Mamosh, that through the palace of the Holy of Holies, you have the elevation infinitely, truly, to the infinite truly, through the tying of the seventh palace, that is the palace of the Holy of Holies, in the palace of the Holy of Holies, that's higher than it. And the Heichel, that's higher than it, to connect from one Heichel Kachar Kedashim to the higher Heichel Kachar Kedashim, and so forth. That's the concept of to tie the seventh to the seventh. Ein Sham, look over there. Perhaps it's similar to the concept of the Hishtalshlus Aksarim. That you have one Keser connected to the other, aside from the natural, from the regular gradative process. And this is like it's brought in Zohar Tazriah, that you have 6 days above, and the seventh upon them, or above them. And what's this seventh? In this context, it's the Bina of Atzilus. She's arguing that there's 6 steps up to the throne. Shisha Yicholus to Bria, These are the 6 palaces of the world of Bria. Vishviah hu heichal kodesh kodashim ayin sham, and the 7th is the palace of the Holy of Holies. Look over there. ונמצא מה שכתוב בפיקודי ריש סמך עמוד בייס כוונו שלושים עסקה של היכל קודש הקדושים דבריאה עד בינה דאצילוס. So it's found then what it's referring to in Zohar Pekudei, its intention is that it's tied this palace of the Holy of Holies of the world of Bria all the way up to Bina of Atzilus. That's the other 7, tying the 7 to the 7. And it's found, so it's explained that in Zohar Yisro that Bina is called the Holy of Holies because it is the 7th palace that includes within it Keser Chochma and Bina. So that's the level. So it's found then that this is truly the tying of the palace of Holy of Holies of the world of Bria, Shu Keser Chochma Bina de Bria, which refers to the levels of Keser Chochma Bina of Bria, Be Keser Chochma Bina de Atzilus, into the same levels in Atzilus, Keser Chochma Bina of Atzilus. The Holy of Holies of Bria into the Holy of Holies of Atzilus. And how is this? But according to what we explained before, it makes sense. Because in truth, the soul of the palace of the Holy of Holies in Bria is are the lights of Keser Chochma Bina Datzilus and so forth. Like we said, that there's this sparkle into Malchus that's mislabesh in the Hichel Kachegdashim, in the Kisei, and so forth. Only that these levels descended and so forth. And therefore, when they are elevated into Atzilus, by having Geula next to Tfilah, so they're tied back to their source, Shu Keser Chochma Bina de Atzilus Chulu, which are the levels of Keser Chochma Bina of Atzilus, and so forth. The calls in Nimshach Ha'idei Avodas Ha'adam, and all this is through the service of a person. Because the animal-like angels, they lift up the throne, because their source is in the world of Tohu, and so forth. Like you brought before about the sparks, that they're a similar idea, as they are enclosed below, but their source is above. And so too it is with the souls of Israel, not just the Malachim, that they are engraved from under the throne. Their source, their root is from the engraved letters, which is also the concept of Keser of Atzilus, only that they descended into the world of Bria, into the throne of Bria. But their shorish is in Atzilus, in Keser. So they also have this hisalus into their shorish. This is all process of Kriyashma, the brachas of Kriyashma, and all the way, and through the 7 hichalos, all the way to Heichal Shvi of Amida, Omdim, and so forth. Vini calls it Matikun. Now all of this is from the world of Tikun. Biur nefesh habahamis. However, through the purification of the animalistic soul, that's root is in the world of Tohu. Through this you have an extra light into the divine soul. That just like above, the animal angels lift up the throne and so forth. The concept of Halicha. Through this you can have the tying of the 7 into the 7 until infinity. Ad infinitum. And similarly, you can understand the 3 times we say B'yom HaShvi in Vayichulu in Kiddush, the Shabbos on the nighttime, that we say Bayom Hashvi, once in the Shemona Esrei, and once afterwards, and again in the Kiddush, and the time in Shemona Esrei is Nehi, and it corresponds with Nehi, and the time afterwards that we say Vayichulu corresponds with Chagas, and when we say it in Kiddush, it corresponds with Chabad. Alpi Sidurari. Ki b'Shabbos omrim b'Yom Hashvi nisal v'yoshav al kisei kvodo, because on Shabbos day we say in the davening that on the seventh day he's elevated and sits on his throne of honor, v'u'al derech l'kashur shviya b'shviyachulu, and this is like the idea that we're saying here, to tie the seventh to the seventh and so forth. Mizeh yuven gam kin inyan kriyas yamsuf, and with this you can understand the concept of the splitting of the sea. Shu gam kin mashe heichal kodesh kadashim debria nasa atzilus. That the splitting of the sea is a similar idea, and that is that the palace of the Holy of Holies of Bria like the dry land, becomes on the level of Atzilus, which is like the sea. They went on the dry land in the sea, in the world of Bria, in the world of Atzilus, as it is in Atzilus. That therefore the splitting of the sea is in Emes V'Yatziv, like it's brought in Shulchan Aruch. That's right before Emes V'Yatziv. When you remember Yetzias Mitzrayim, the splitting of the sea is within the last paragraph of Shema, and not like the other zechiros that are before the Barach, in the before Kriyas Shema. Mavor b'makom acher ki hamalchus kishi b'atzilus nikres yam, and it's explained in another place that the malchus, when it's in Atzilus, is called the sea. Because shemislaveshes bebria nikra aretz, and when it's enclosed in the world of Bria, it's called the land. I know heichal kodesh kadashim de Bria, that is the palace of the Holy of Holies of Bria, is the land. Achin be'emes shoresh nishmas heichal kodesh kadashim gevoyos or ma'malchus atzmo kanal. But the truth is that the root of the soul, the neshama of the palace of Holy of Holies, is higher than the malchus itself. And therefore the land is sources higher than the sea, because the because the end is tied into the beginning and so forth. Like it says in another place on the verse that 6 days you should eat matzos and so forth. And meaning the matzahs in comparison to the splitting of the sea, which is the seventh day. And that's that the splitting of the sea is on the seventh day of Pesach. Is similar to this idea of tying the seventh to the seventh and so forth, elevating the Heichal Kadashim of Bria to the Heichal Kadashim of Atzilus and Bina, because of his shoresh and because of the shoresh of the oros of the Keser Chachma Bina, as they shine into the kisei of Atzilus, they are rooted in. As they shine into the kisei of the Olam Bria, they're rooted in their shoresh in Keser Chachma Bina of Atzilus.